Minister, thanks for coming in. We are
You're
so
welcome.
we
You're
want to
welcome. But I was
apologize.
expecting to meet you all in person. I brought many
Yeah, no, we bought
breakfast,
breakfasts.
but you all are not here, so Steve will
I
have to
will be
eat
there.
all
I
the
I
will
will
salary.
eat
see if you can leave
all.
it.
I will eat all.
Anyway, thanks
Whichever
for joining
glass
us
in and
this
collect
morning.
for me.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thanks
let's
for
get on.
joining us this morning. First of all, I know you've been working with candidates, your PNM's local government candidates, in the St. Joseph MP. How many districts or divisions are there, local government, in terms of local government, in the St. Joseph constituency?
Yeah. So the St. Joseph constituency has about six areas, five under Sanwa Laventil and one under Tunapuna Piarco. So the Tunapuna Piarco is the Valsain St. Joseph seat, which is to the eastern extremity of the constituency. And then everything else west of St. Joseph Arangwes, St. Joseph Valsain, falls under Sanwa Laventil. So the vast majority of the area falls under Sanwa Laventil.
Oh, who is the councillor then for the district in St. Joseph, the Valsain area?
Seema Augustine,
Okay.
UNC
A UNC councillor.
incumbent.
Okay. All right. Well,
Right.
okay,
So how? Go ahead, Wendell.
no, I think we were going to ask the same question. So how has it been going, the campaign going, in terms of the people under your watch, the councillors under your watch, candidates?
Okay, so we are confident of doing very well in the Valsain St. Joseph seat. The two incumbents that we have in Sanwa Laventil, which will be the Sanwa East, Councillor Raphael John, we are confident of retaining that. We have gone in with a new, younger candidate in the Mount Dor and part of the Mount Lambert area, Kadim Graham. He's very young, he's very keen, and we are confident again of retaining that seat. What we are trying to do with the two incumbents that we have under Sanwa Laventil is not only retain, but retain by wider margins. And that's what we are trying to do. The others under Sanwa Laventil, we are working very hard to do well. I was with one of them up to yesterday. And we are confident of retaining what we have and hopefully springing one or two little surprises along the way.
But
Well, I'm
I've
glad to
seen,
hear that because, quite frankly, I've been very disappointed in the candidate from Mount Lambert who was here before. I'll say it publicly. Very
Yeah.
disappointed.
And that's why we had to go with someone new.
well, I've seen Kadim Graham, I've seen his campaign, and he seems very eager.
Yes, yes. He's been working with me for 5 years now in my office. So I could attest to his keenness to work, his sincerity. He's a son of the Mount Dor area, so he's well-grounded, well-rooted. And I think he's going to make an excellent, excellent councillor. As a matter of fact, he has a bright future ahead of him. And when I introduced him at the Quasi a few weeks ago in a campaign meeting, my exact words were, his future is so bright, you will need shades to look at him in 2 years. No, he's very keen. He has been immersed in how I operate, how I service constituents, so he knows what service is about.
Right.
Now, are these persons prepared to go full time when all the parts of the Reform Act are proclaimed? Because that's part of the intention to reform local government delivery of services. That has been a complaint for many years.
Correct. So it's not only are they prepared to, by law, they have to go to. And that is a major plank of local government reform that Burgesses need to be educated on. A part-time councillor cannot fulfill the duties and rules that a modern society needs, that a modern Burgess needs. There are too many local government issues. And gentlemen, let me say, as a member of parliament, local government issues are the number 3 issue that residents come to their member of parliament, simply because local government doesn't work. So a member of parliament has to see about garbage collection, drain cleaning, and everything else, which is not realistic. So that is why we have to get full-time local government councillors on the ground doing this job 24/7, because the current system of part-time councillors being paid a stipend does not work for the councillor, but more importantly, does not work for you, the burgess, who needs their support to keep their communities clean, well run every single day. I keep telling people local government councillors are more important than MPs to your daily existence.
Yeah, that's a fact.
What's the relationship like from you? Because you're going to speak to your own relationship, your own experience between yourself as the MP and the councillors in terms of the issues that come to your office and they, in many cases, have to address.
Yeah. So what we do at my office, I have one person dedicated, because local government doesn't work, dedicated to be the liaison when constituents come, to be that liaison between my office and the different councillors in the different areas. One person dedicated. Now that should not be if you have a functioning local government system. So whilst the relationship is good, it should not be. A member of parliament should not be seen about streetlights, a wassail. All those things fall under the domain of local government. But we do it because we understand that constituents can't get the redress that they need and the attention that they need from part-time councillors. So we have to do it, and we do it willingly and gladly, because we don't like to see people being distressed by these daily irritants.
And what are the main irritants that come to your attention?
Yeah, drainage, drains to be clean, drains to be built, garbage not being collected. When garbage isn't collected, you have rats and flies, cockroaches. It becomes a public health hazard. I mean, those are just two of the major ones that every day people complain about. And then with the expansion of the roles and responsibilities for local government will start to take over maintenance of schools. Right now, we have some issues with Mount Dor Primary School. I was up there last week. Now, why should an MP be involved in that when we have or will have a full-time local government representative with the resources at the corporation to actually take over the maintenance of schools, so that schools don't have to be maintained out of Port of Spain? Decentralize the thing. It can be done faster. It can be done better. It creates employment at the local level. It's just a win-win for everybody. So I urge everybody to come out and support local government reform next week, Monday. It will work for you.
The issues of how the projects in the constituency, the development projects, are going to be reconciled with what the responsibilities of the regional bodies are. Has that come for discussion? Because I mean, in every regional body area, people want maintenance and service, but they also want development.
Yeah.
And there's a balancing act that has to take place, because some are under the auspices of the Ministry of Planning and the central government, and some are under and the minor projects are under now or will be under the regional bodies.
Yeah. So under local government reform, Paul, and thanks for asking that question, local government bodies will be responsible for what we call, I think, is minor planning permission. So you no longer have to go to town and country. So that's a layer of bureaucracy out. But let me get back to your major question. Do you know that many infrastructural and capital projects cannot be done at the local level because a CEO who is a public servant may not want it? Who elected a CEO to office? Who elected a CEO at a regional corporation to say yay or nay? When the MPs who are elected get the blame, the councillors who are elected get the blame, and the CEO, for some reason, blocks a project. We have to get rid of that. A public officer should not be able to stymie the will of an electorate who was elected an MP and a local government representative to get work done. So that is why we are moving to these executive councils and strip away the unfettered power of a CEO. It just does not work. And the public doesn't see this part of it. They just blame the councillors, blame the MPs. But a lot of the blame has to go at the feet of CEOs of corporation who don't cooperate with us and who we have to genuflect to get things done as representatives of the people.
That is part of the reform package, right?
And Wendell, you will know.
Yes, I can relate to that.
You can relate to that.
Yeah.
It's just an untenable situation that an unelected public officer holds the purse strings and has the decision as to what goes forward or not. And the elected officials take all the blame from the public. But the public doesn't know.
Well, I think it's been widely discussed the issues with that. We should ask the same question. Minister, how do you expect it to work now? Think about St. Joseph, your constituency, for example. Some of the areas will get will have residential taxes from Tunapuna Piaco, and some will have residential taxes from Sanwo Laventil. How is that going to reconcile in terms of where the money is spent and how the projects, the maintenance projects, because it may seem complicated and convoluted to some who may not understand how it's intended to operate?
So the Tunapuna Piaco, which is the biggest region of the 14 in the country geographically, and I think also population-wise, they will collect their resources. If they don't have enough, it will be supplemented by central government. Then they will take all their infrastructural needs and projects from all regions and then allocate resources. So the Valsain St. Joseph seat, which is from Cayman, St. Joseph, Valsain North, Valsain South, down to Bamboo 1, Bamboo 2, and Nuge, East Grove, they will have resources based on what they pay into the kitty and what is then supplemented by central government. And then west of Valsain St. Joseph, what is paid in by residents under Sanwo Laventil, and again supplemented by central government, they will have their resources to undertake their capex, their capital expenditure projects.
But yesterday we had Khadija Amin on, your parliamentary colleague for St. Augustine, and her contention, and I guess the UNC's contention, is that there are issues that may arise because, one, some areas have higher residential house values and they may pay more and expect more, and some areas may be less densely populated, they'll be less collected, and they may collect less, and so may suffer in terms of the resources that go into those areas. Can you respond to that?
Yeah, and that's why I was careful to say it will be supplemented from central government, and that is what the UNC is ignoring. And I said that clearly. I said what Tunapuna Piaco collects will be supplemented by central government, and I also said clearly, same thing for Sanwo Laventil. So even though you may have an area that is sparsely populated, it will be supplemented by central government. And the finance minister was clear to say that in budget debates. But according to the UNC, the system is broken, but leave it so. We are saying, no, the system is broken. Let's not leave it so. And they will cherry pick what misinformation to tell the public.
Yeah. I too thought that was clear. I didn't hear Ms. Amin yesterday, but I had to come off the program. But it was clear that the Minister of Finance said that whatever the shortfalls in the corporation, the ministry will supplement their subventions.
But UNC will never tell you that.
Yeah.
And you all need to be sufficiently aware so you can challenge them. And that's where the UNC gets away with murder in this country from the media. The media doesn't challenge them.
Yeah.
You could never get Kamla Prasad-Bissessar to come on a program as Dr. Keith Rowley does and answer questions from the public and answer questions from the media. She hides behind a screen.
We've tried.
Right? And similarly, I think media practitioners need to inform themselves. So when Khadija says those things, Paul, you could challenge her and say, well, the Minister of Finance said that it will be supplemented. All of us have a duty to bring the truth to the public.
No, we do challenge them, but we can't remember everything.
But that's an important point, you see.
It's an important point, but I asked the question for it to be clarified because my understanding was that there was still going to be a role for the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, even though this new regime takes place, because there are some areas, because it came up in the budget debates in both the lower and upper houses, where places that were less densely populated or where the residential house values didn't generate enough revenue for that corporation, it made the central government had a role and a responsibility at that to supplement the property tax revenues to make sure that services were provided for those areas. So
No,
I think
Paul,
you've clarified.
Paul, no. The point I'm trying to make is that if yesterday Ms. Amin was asked the question, didn't you hear the Minister of Finance say it will be supplemented? Then that bit of misinformation would have been addressed. Wendell knows about it. I know. The point I'm making is that the UNC gets away without challenge to their misinformation and disinformation far too often. That's the basic point I'm making.
What we're going to do is have you on as a co-host more often.
I'm not even very quiet this morning.
But he got my reminder, so he had time with me. He business and whatever happens in Joseph. Let's move on to the Ministry of Health and the issue with the Food and Drug Division and what prompted these visits by Food and Drug and this situation where the drugs were taken off the shelves, seized or whatever happened.
So nothing prompted this. This has been an ongoing activity over the years. Chemistry, Food and Drugs, under their act, has the authority at all times to enter pharmacies and do what they are doing. It has been going on for years. So that is misinformation and disinformation part number one. What we are doing this year is stepping up the activities in concert with the TTPS and customs. And we have tried speaking to pharmacists over the years and pharmacists and pharmacy owners. So I dismiss this talk about dialogue coming from Mr. Wazir Hussain and this morning from the Pharmaceutical Society. Chemistry, Food and Drugs inspectors have been very, very accommodating in talking to pharmacists over the years about their indiscretions. It has reached a point now where talking to them, advising them, pointing out their responsibilities under the Act is not falling on fertile ears. So we have decided that this year we are going to implement the law as it should have been done over the years. Because I notice Mr. Wazir Hussain has seen it is red tape at the ministry which forces them to sell expired drugs and unregistered drugs. Now, I brought some stuff here this morning to show you all. I'm going to ask Steve. Steve, you read this. You read this.
All right.
Which is being sold in a pharmacy for $35 a bottle. Read the name on the label.
Wendell, it's called, gentlemen, it's called the Pleasure Hammer.
Right. Tell me on that label where you see the name of the manufacturer.
There's nothing except the Pleasure Hammer.
Tell me where you see the address of the manufacturer.
There is nothing but the Pleasure Hammer.
Tell me where you see an expiry date.
No, that is something I watch all the time. Nothing. There's nothing on this label.
And you want to tell me.
So this, let me just show you folks here.
Yeah.
Put it in front.
Yeah.
This is all.
Yeah. This is all.
Nothing.
Pleasure Hammer. I never see that one before, Paul. You know that one?
No. Let's not make light of this.
No,
this is what
is that being sold in a pharmacy?
No, I have to consult with pharmacists to tell them that this is wrong.
I don't think you need to consult with pharmacists.
Well, Minister, you use the word indiscretion. And
hold on, because we don't have much time.
Okay.
Steve, read that.
Black Ant King.
Read the directions. How do you take that, Steve? As a member of the public buying that in a pharmacy.
Chasu Kaifan. Fried rice, chow mein chicken. It's all in Chinese, which I cannot read.
Do you see a date of expiry on that, Steve? If you had a problem with that, who is the manufacturer of that?
There's no date.
And all the writing is in what?
Chinese. You show the folks here. You can show them, yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
This is what we are cracking down on. Look at this one, Steve.
What we got
This
there?
is the most egregious one. Look at the expiry date of that drug. It's on the bottom of the bottle. The bottom.
Oh, geez and ages. Date of manufacture, April 2015. Expiry date, April 2018.
Right?
What is this?
That's
And I
5
am
years
being
ago.
told that this is because of the Ministry of Health. Look at the expiry date on this drug.
How is the Ministry of Health being blamed for that?
Well, that is what Wazir Hussein was saying in the Guardian yesterday. Look, it's on the top.
All right, let's see. Expiry, December 21.
Being offered for sale. This one, March 2021.
Wow.
How on earth is the red tape at the Ministry of Health responsible for this?
Now, Minister, you used the word indiscretion earlier on, but my contention with this is that those are dangerous circumstances because people's lives are at risk. People are being dispensed these I didn't call them drugs, these things to take, and they may put your life in danger. And pharmacists.
That's what I ask him. If someone takes these drugs now, what happens to the individual?
No, but I want to get to a point of legality before that. Is it legal for pharmacists to be dispensing these drugs or have them on their shelves and selling them?
It is totally illegal. And they are taught that in pharmacy school in their 4-year bachelor's degree program. They are introduced to all the laws and regulations pertaining to their profession.
Has anyone been charged for doing this?
Well, as I said, that is now going to the TTPS. And they are also taught the ethics of their profession.
And
But
these products were found in 40 pharmacies.
Yeah. How wide? Which connects to how widespread is the problem, Minister? Is it a very widespread problem that you're encountering, or it's limited to?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Or is it limited to a region, or is it limited to a small number of pharmacies that are breaking those rules?
Yeah.
Well, according to Wazir Hussein, he said we were targeting 40 pharmacies. But that is not correct. We are going after and inspecting across the board based on intelligence that both the TTPS and Chemistry, Food and Drug gets. And whether you're a large chain or a sole trader, you are not excused or exempted from a visit from Chemistry, Food and Drugs, and very often in tandem with the TTPS.
So, Minister, so let me ask you a question. These products that you would have brought to the studio that are either expired or have no information, are they on the shelf for anyone to go and pick up, or are they in a place where you have to go and ask for it?
Very often they are behind in the dispensary. These they might be at the cashier. If you look at the cashier point of sale at any pharmacy, these impulse items, especially to do with male virility, fooling men into thinking that these things make them more sexually potent. You will normally find them at the cashier's counter.
Oh.
You mean Pleasure Hammer? I have to consult with a pharmacist to say Pleasure Hammer, the label has no manufacturer, no instruction.
But to me, that's a flagrant breach of the law and putting people's lives at risk. And to me, that's the real issue here.
And people are defending this. Wazir Hussein and the Pharmaceutical Society in the Guardian this morning are defending this.
But what's their defense for it?
We should have dialogue.
Dialogue on what? There's no expiry date.
But that's the point I'm trying to make.
There's nothing. What are the ingredients on that hammer thing? Nobody knows.
But I must have dialogue to tell them it is illegal, unethical, and downright dangerous to offer a product or pharmacy to a patient after you have gone to a bachelor's degree for 4 years. for 4 years
To come down to that
to
stupidity.
come down to this level of stupidity.
Yeah.
But it's
This is
dangerous.
what Wazir Hussein and the Pharmaceutical Society this morning are defending.
The other side of that story, Minister, is how are these things getting here? Pharmacies.
So when we ask them for receipts, because we are entitled to ask for receipts, we cannot get receipts.
But a receipt must be given
No,
if they're buying a product.
No, sorry. When we ask them for the bill, the invoice that they buy it from a wholesaler, we can't get an invoice, so we can't backtrace it. The wholesaler, a customs entry. It's a cash business. And I must have dialogue.
So is it part of like a suitcase trade where they bring these items in?
The suitcase trade.
It is exactly that. It's a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise.
And that's why I asked the question, because of how dangerous it is to be having, when you brought these, what you describe as impulse drugs, the question arises now, what other types of pharmaceuticals are passing under the radar of chemistry, food, and drugs that may pose a risk to the population's health who purchase them?
Well, it's not passing under the radar of chemistry, food, and drugs. The reason I have them, it is because it is on the radar of chemistry, food, and drugs. And I am being pilloried by pharmacists now for doing this. You know what a pharmacist messaged me and told me yesterday? That I should inform them when the inspectors are coming.
What? So they could move the
inspector. Okay,
so they could move pleasure
move all
hammer.
them drugs, move the hammer, put it out, take it home.
So let's take this to the ridiculous level. The police is conducting an exercise to catch criminals. We must tell the criminals, look, boss, we coming by your home 7 o'clock in the morning,
But you know, additionally, Minister.
No, this is a pharmacist.
No, because if you're breaking a law, it's criminal activity.
No, he berated me in a message telling me that we should inform the pharmacies when we are coming. So this is not under the radar of chemistry.
Minister, I keep seeing Mr. Hussein's title as former pharmacy head. Is there a present pharmacy head?
Yes,
pharmacy board head?
Sahadeo.
And what is his response to this as the present pharmacy board head?
I don't know.
Has he reached out to the health ministry to discuss this issue that affects some pharmacists, obviously?
Not as yet.
And the regulation of the industry?
Gentlemen, the chemistry, food, and drugs divisions over the years has turned their faces blue talking to pharmacists about their legal and ethical responsibilities to the population. It has fallen on deaf ears. This idea of suitcase trade is as old as I am old in the pharmacy business. It's about 40 years old. But I am determined to, let me choose my words carefully, to impact positively on this. Because it talks about customs, it talks about warehousing, it talks about the responsibility of the pharmacy owners. And that's why when we ask the pharmacy owners, give us a bill for Pleasure Hammer, they can't. Give us a bill for Black and King, they can't. So we can't trace it back to an importer and then trace it back to see where they came through customs.
But look at that.
Are there other drugs, for example?
For example, people go into pharmacies and say, can I get 2 of whatever?
Correct.
And they get 2 pills, maybe from an expired box.
Correct.
And the consumer does not know.
And
That's a very dangerous situation.
And I am being told by Wazir Hussein and the Pharmaceutical Society that it is the ministry's fault because of red tape at the ministry. Could you believe
you brought
that?
the emergency? I know.
No.
Okay.
Look at
other drugs apart from Wendell's favorite drug.
Tell me.
I can't
Steve,
pronounce these things at all.
to you.
All right. So I know this one is Crestor.
All right.
It's a cholesterol drug,
read
right?
the instructions.
What language is that?
Thank you.
It looks like Russian.
And pharmacists are taught that labeling must be in English in their 4-year bachelor's degree program.
Yeah.
Look at the others. Tell me.
All right. So it's Crestor. Whatever this one is.
What
Minister,
against
does the ministry have any remit over the cost of drugs, particularly?
No. Let's not go down that road. This is a free enterprise system.
Okay, I'm
There's
just
no
asking the question.
There's no price control, as we all know.
No, why is it in Saran wrap?
Forget
But
this.
okay,
That is
Minister, from the public awareness perspective, is the ministry planning to go on a public awareness campaign
Yes, yes.
so the public is aware that what is the standard practice and what they should be buying into or not buying into to protect their lives and health?
Yes.
No, but
The answer is yes.
this one says
It raises the question. It raises the question in my mind, Minister, because you have the very regulated, or supposed to be regulated, pharmaceutical industry. But as a corollary to that, you have a lot of these health places,
Supplements, stimulants.
that are pretty much unregulated, where you may have questionable characters saying, and of course, we have a rich history in Trinidad
Promising health benefits.
and the Caribbean of natural remedies that are not necessarily under the same level of scientific scrutiny as drugs, but for which many people vouch that herbal remedies from the Caribbean, and what people say, take this for male virility, etc., etc. What's your take on that whole industry that is pretty much unregulated?
So my take is that we collected the evidence in November of 2018 on one particular individual. We sent the file to the DPP, and that's where it is, because we took it very, very seriously. So the file.
Would you care to share the name of the individual?
Would
you care to share the name of the individual?
No, because when this goes to a court of law, it must not be said that the Minister of Health said X, Y, and Z, and the case collapsed. Paul, I'm sure you understand that of all people.
Yeah,
I can't use the pharmaceutical license.
No, they are not pharmacies.
They are pharmacists.
They are not pharmacies. And I don't want to say much because of my job is protecting the public's interest. For the first time, a Minister of Health sent a file to the DPP on this issue in November of 2018.
Now, one of these drugs, you have kids on it. It's a kid's drug.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pharmacists that can read that language.
They can't.
And say, well, suppose in legit, it's give one, and they say, no, give him two.
Yeah.
But they're just guessing.
Yeah. And pharmacists are angry with me personally. They say, how could I, as a pharmacist, do this to my fellow brothers?
Oh, it's a friend thing.
Yeah. And they say, everybody wants corruption in this country to be addressed, but leave my part alone. Fix everything else. Fix the corrupt practices everywhere else, but leave my sector alone.
Well, I think it's dangerous also because it's preying on a vulnerable sector of society. When people are ill, they depend on a pharmacist as they depend on a doctor to give them legitimate information that and prescriptions that will improve their health. And if you can't read the label as a standard procedure to me or best practice around the world, or if you're dispensing expired drugs or drugs that are not supposed to be in the system, there's an issue there. Is it that what's the protocol? Because you can't have an expansive list of supplements and drugs and stimulants from around the world. Is there a guideline? Is there a list of banned drugs and supplements? How does it work?
Okay. So drugs that are approved by Chemistry, Food and Drugs and signed off by myself are gazetted. So it's in the public domain. However, the pharmacist is supposed to know all of these things. And by common sense, you do not purchase drugs from a wholesaler where you can't get an invoice. Purchase drugs from bona fide distributors that are invoiced. So if something happens, there's a paper trail. But we can't get an invoice for Pleasure Hammer. We can't get an invoice for Black Ant King. We can't get an invoice for all these drugs that have Turkish and Russian
with kids on it.
And you are taught this in your 4-year bachelor's degree.
Is it also an issue for drugs that contain THC? Because my understanding is that people who are seeking to have those types of interventions are also getting from some pharmacists in the country, though they may not have been approved.
Yes, and that is correct, and we are clamping down on all of those things. We are clamping down on all of those things.
That's a lot. If we can, in the last 5 minutes, move to the issue of NCDs in the country. I know you are passionate about this, and what's the ministry's perspective? Because I saw a report the other day that spoke to the Caribbean and the Trinidad Tobago being, if not first, certainly in the top 3 in terms of the incidence of NCDs in Trinidad and Tobago, putting a huge strain on the healthcare system and also certainly impacting negatively on the health and lives of the country, people in the country.
Yes, so NCDs globally is one of the #1 issues facing populations, mainly because we have adopted wholesale Americanized way of life, from food to being sedentary, from being linked to devices, especially for children, lack of exercise, the pushing of soft drinks and sugar beverages over water, the pushing of fast foods, and the Americanization of our diet and of our way of life is posing serious problems around the world. We have launched a very aggressive NCD program, and it is beginning to show some signs of progress. I recently shared with the public some data from one of our initiatives to control high blood pressure, where those patients enrolled in our clinics under a program called HEARTS, the number of people with controlled blood pressure is going up significantly. So we are having some successes there. In our diabetic clinics, we are starting to see evidence that people's HbA1c, which is a measure of your glucose control over a 3-month period, we are starting to see signs that HbA1cs, which are up to 7 is normal. People come into our clinics with 11, 12, 13, 14. It is starting to drop. So we are starting to see the fruits of our NCD programs. We are starting to see the fruits of our NCD program with breastfeeding. And we encourage all new mothers to breastfeed. That is a surefire protection against NCDs for both baby and mother. And do not introduce formula to your baby as early as you do it. We should try to exclusively breastfeed for about 6 months. And one of the statistics to show how breastfeeding is taking off now, before our 2020 national policy on breastfeeding, only 10% of the women given birth in our hospitals within 24 hours were breastfeeding. Now, gentlemen, that is up to 95%. We have moved from 10% to 95% early initiation of breastfeeding within 24 hours, and that includes mothers who deliver by cesarean section. So we are encouraging the adoption of lifestyle changes from pregnancy with our diabetes and pregnancy program, from early lactation, early bonding, early attachment to the breast and to the nipple. I have given you the statistics where we have moved from 10% to 95% early initiation of breastfeeding within 24 hours. I have given you the numbers on what we are starting to see are positive trends in the control of diabetes with the HbA1c numbers and the blood pressure numbers in our HEARTS program. So it is culture change. I mean, we are fighting a culture change which developed over decades. So we can't flip a switch. But since we started mounting these programs about 4 or 5 years ago, we are starting to see the positive trends and the positive shifts. And in the last few minutes I have left with your viewers, if I can encourage you to do 3 things. 1, substitute water for soft drinks and juices. Sugary-based soft drinks and juices have no nutritional value, and they lead to high rates of diabetes.
Energy drinks.
2, energy drinks too. Energy drinks are useless. 2, Exercise is free. Walk around, jump, skip rope, push-ups, anything. Get moving. That is free. And 3, start to substitute a little more fruits and vegetables for this box lunch thing and this chicken and chips and things.
Is the ministry concerned about the increase in the use of vaping devices in the country?
Yes, and there's a position right now that I'm taking. We got legal advice from the Attorney General as to how to approach it, and we are following his advice, and I'll be taking a position very soon to Cabinet on that.
Central Block progress?
I was there 2 weeks ago. It's about 34% completed. Hard construction is going to finish at the end of last quarter of 2024. We started commission equipment, and hopefully, all things being equal, it will be open by the first quarter of 2025.
Congrats on the admin building opening, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you, and also Sangre Grande Hospital is on stream, hopefully for opening later on this year or the first quarter of next year.
I'm wondering about Sangre Grande actually,
Yes.
because I know some work was going
that's
on.
That's a project that's very dear to me.
According to one, the thanks for coming and full weekend.
Sweeping time. It's sweeping time, Minister.
Breakfast.
I'll be in. I'll have my breakfast. Breakfasts.
No.
Thank you so much for breakfast.
We already have bids on it, Paul.
Well, have a good day, Minister. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Cheers.